You think solitude is peaceful? Try it long enough and it stops feeling calm. The silence starts to press on you. Your thoughts get louder. Doubts creep in. And suddenly, you realize this isn't relaxation. This is a battlefield. Most men fail here. They can't handle the weight of being alone, so they run back to the noise, back to distractions, back to the crowd. But the few who stay, the ones who endure that silence, they come out unrecognizable, stronger, sharper, and unstoppable. Solitude will test you, and in this video I'm going to show you exactly how to pass. Now here's the truth. Solitude doesn't just test your patience. It puts you through a series of trials, each one designed to expose your weakness and force you to grow stronger. Fail them, and you stay the same man you've always been. Pass them, and you evolve into someone the world can't ignore. Let's break it down. Here are the 7 tests of solitude and how to conquer each one. Number 1, the test of restlessness. The first few minutes of silence feel harmless. You sit there, maybe proud of yourself for finally unplugging, but then it hits. The itch, that crawling discomfort under your skin. Your hands twitch for your phone. Your thoughts start racing like a pack of wild dogs. Suddenly, the room feels too small, the quiet too loud. It's as if every second drags out into eternity. This is restlessness, the addiction to noise clawing at you, your body and mind screaming, "Do something!" Distract yourself, escape this. You'll convince yourself you need music, or maybe just one scroll, one quick video, one harmless text, anything to break the weight of silence. Most men fail right here. They grab the phone, they call someone, they drown themselves in entertainment, and they never realize what they just threw away, the doorway to strength. Because that itch, that discomfort, that's not weakness, that's detox. It's your mind trying to flush out years of dependency on other people's validation. If you can sit there and resist, if you can let the restlessness burn without escaping, you'll notice something incredible. The storm slows down, your breathing evens out, the noise inside your head starts to fade, and then there's stillness. Not emptiness, but a power you've never felt before. The man who can endure restlessness discovers a secret most will never know. He doesn't need constant stimulation to exist. He doesn't need approval to feel alive. He is enough, even in silence. And that, right there, is power. Number 2, the test of self-confrontation. Silence doesn't just strip away the noise of the world, it strips away your excuses. The moment restlessness fades, another test steps forward, far heavier and far more brutal: self-confrontation. This is when the quiet turns into a mirror, not the kind that shows your face, but the one that shows your truth. All the flaws you've buried, the decisions you regret, the lies you told yourself to make it through the day. In solitude, there is no distraction to shield you. You are face to face with you. And here's the brutal part. Most people run from this. They bury themselves in relationships, parties, endless conversations, because being alone with their own reflection is terrifying. It's easier to pretend you're fine when there's always someone clapping for you. But in solitude, the applause dies. The crowd disappears. And all that's left is the raw, unfiltered reality of your choices. You'll hear the questions you've been dodging. Why am I not where I want to be? Why do I repeat the same mistakes? Why do I crave approval so badly? These questions sting. They dig under your skin. They demand answers. And answering them feels like peeling your own armor off with your bare hands. But this is where transformation happens. Because the man who survives self-confrontation doesn't just see his flaws, he owns them. He stops blaming the world, stops blaming luck, stops blaming anyone else. He admits, this is where I failed. This is where I was weak. And this is what I must change. That admission is the first spark of power. The weak man runs from the mirror. The strong man endures it. He wrestles with the truth until the truth bends him into something stronger. And when he walks back into the world, he carries a kind of calm that others can't understand. Because once you've faced your darkest reflection and didn't flinch, there's nothing left to fear. Self-confrontation is not punishment. It's purification. It burns away illusions and leaves you with something rare, an unshakable foundation built on honesty. And a man who is honest with himself cannot be broken by anyone else. Number 3, the test of approval. Withdrawal. The hardest drug in the world isn't alcohol. It isn't nicotine. It isn't even power. It's approval. That little rush you get when someone nods at you, claps for you, likes your photo, says, "I'm proud of you." It feels harmless until it's gone. Solitude cuts you off from that drug. No one is cheering. No one is noticing. No one is watching. And suddenly you start to feel invisible. Doubts creep in. Do I even matter if no one sees me? Do my efforts mean anything if nobody applauds? This is the withdrawal, and it shakes people to their core. Most fail here. They break the silence and go running back into the crowd, desperate to be seen, desperate to be validated. They compromise their values just to be accepted again. They dilute their strength just to fit back in, and every time they do, they weaken themselves. But if you can endure this withdrawal, if you can sit in solitude without begging for attention, you uncover a truth most people never experience. Your worth was never in their approval. It was always in your actions, your character, your discipline. When the applause disappears and you keep going anyway, you become untouchable. Because a man who doesn't need validation is dangerous. He can't be manipulated with praise. He can't be broken with silence. He doesn't bend when the world ignores him, because he no longer feeds on the world's opinion. This is the test that separates leaders from followers. Followers live for recognition. Leaders live for purpose. When approval no longer drives you, purpose takes over. And purpose, unlike applause, doesn't fade when the crowd walks away. So if solitude starves you of approval, let it. Starve until the need dies inside you, and in its place you'll find something far stronger: self-respect. Because once you stop needing anyone's permission to exist, you finally begin to live. Number 4, the test of clarity. Clarity doesn't come wrapped in comfort. It doesn't arrive gently with calm music and soft light. It comes in the stillness, in the dead silence when the noise of the world has finally been stripped away. And that's when it hits you, the weight of your own choices, your own life, your own reality. Most men never reach this test because they're too afraid to face it. They fill every gap in their day with distraction, music blasting, endless scrolling, pointless conversations, because they know the moment the noise fades, the truth will rise. And the truth is brutal. Clarity exposes how much of your life has been borrowed. Dreams you didn't choose, goals you never believed in, a lifestyle handed to you by culture, friends, or family. It confronts you with the question no distraction can silence. Do you even like the life you're living, or have you just been pretending? It's not an easy moment. When clarity comes, it doesn't whisper, it roars. It shows you the people who don't belong in your circle. It shines a light on the habits slowly destroying you. It reveals the lies you've told yourself just to keep moving. And that revelation burns. It feels like your old self is being stripped away piece by piece. But if you can stand in that storm and not run, if you can face the naked truth without trying to cover it up with excuses or cheap distractions, then clarity transforms you. Suddenly, you see what needs to be cut, what needs to be kept, and what needs to be built. Decisions that once felt impossible now become obvious. The fog lifts and the path sharpens. This is why clarity is dangerous. It demands sacrifice. You'll have to let go of people you love but who weaken you. You'll have to bury the old identity you once clung to. You'll have to admit that some of your past choices were mistakes. But in that painful honesty, freedom is born. A man who passes the test of clarity no longer drifts with the crowd. He no longer builds a life to impress. He no longer wastes years chasing empty victories. He moves with precision, with direction, with conviction, because he finally knows who he is and where he's going. Clarity doesn't make life easier. It makes it real. And once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. The question is, will you face it or keep hiding in the noise? Number 5, the test of loneliness. Loneliness is the test that breaks most men, not because they can't survive being alone, but because they've built their entire identity around being wanted. When the texts stop, when the calls fade, when the crowd moves on, they feel stripped bare, as if without constant company, they stop existing. But loneliness is different from solitude. Solitude is chosen. Loneliness is forced, and that's why it stings so much. It feels like rejection, like proof that you're unworthy. In this space, your mind plays tricks on you. It whispers that you were left behind, that nobody cares, that maybe you'll always be invisible. Most men can't handle that voice. They'll go crawling back to toxic circles, unhealthy relationships, and empty validation just to silence it. But loneliness is a crucible. It burns away the illusions you've been holding on to. It reveals how much of your worth you've handed over to others. And it dares you to answer one terrifying question. Are you enough for yourself? When you can look that question in the face and answer yes, not because the world reassured you, but because you finally learned to reassure yourself, that's when loneliness loses its power. You stop chasing people who never respected you. You stop clinging to groups that only tolerated you. You stop mistaking attention for love. Passing the test of loneliness doesn't mean you stop needing people forever. It means you no longer fear their absence. You can stand alone without falling apart. And here's the paradox. The moment you no longer need anyone to fill your emptiness, the right people are drawn to you, not because you're desperate, but because you're whole. Loneliness is the shadow every man runs from, but if you stand still long enough to face it, you'll find that it was never a curse. It was training. It was sharpening you. It was teaching you that the man who can stand alone is the man who can lead. Because a man who conquers loneliness is no longer seeking to be saved. He's already found his strength. Number 6, the test of self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency is the point where many men stumble because the world has trained us to depend on approval, on systems, on someone else to tell us what to do and when to do it. From the moment you're a child, you're handed a script. Go here, learn this, follow that. And most men never outgrow that leash. They wait. They wait for direction, for permission, for someone else to lead the way. But solitude exposes this dependency. When no one is telling you what to do, when there's no one around to validate your choices, you're left with yourself. And suddenly the truth hits. You're either going to build your own life or waste it waiting for someone to build it for you. That's the test of self-sufficiency. At first, it feels overwhelming. Cooking your own meals, managing your money, creating your own structure, setting your own standards. You realize how much you've leaned on others to carry you through. And that's why most men fail. They panic when the safety net is gone. They run back to dependence, begging for guidance, clinging to relationships, jobs, or groups that keep them comfortable but powerless. But the man who embraces this test begins to change. He learns to generate his own momentum, to set his own rules, to rely on his own discipline. He stops being carried and starts carrying himself. And here's the secret. Self-sufficiency isn't just about survival, it's about strength. Because the man who can feed himself, guide himself and sustain himself, cannot be controlled. He no longer bows to crumbs of attention or scraps of approval. He no longer lives as a beggar in a world of kings. Passing this test doesn't mean you reject help forever. It means you don't need it to stand tall. You can collaborate without being dependent. You can love without being needy. You can work with others without handing them control of your destiny. Self-sufficiency makes you magnetic because it radiates freedom. The man who is whole within himself doesn't beg, doesn't cling, doesn't shrink. He becomes the anchor others look to, not because he asked for it, but because he proved he can stand when everyone else is falling. And that's the essence of this test, to show you that everything you thought you needed from others, you were capable of giving yourself all along. Number 7, the test of transformation. Transformation is the final and most brutal test because it demands the death of who you were. And most men are terrified of that death. They cling to their old identity, the comfort of familiar habits, the safety of excuses, the illusion of who they used to be. Even if that version of themselves is weak, broken, or unfulfilled, they hold on to it because it feels familiar. But solitude strips away familiarity. It exposes the cracks in the mask you've been wearing. And when there's nothing left to distract you, you're faced with a choice. Cling to the old you, or step into the fire and allow yourself to be remade. That's the test of transformation. It doesn't happen gently. It feels like your skin is being torn off, like everything you thought defined you is crumbling. Friends may no longer recognize you. Family may resist the new you. The world may try to pull you back into the version they're comfortable with. And this is where most men fail. They fold under the pressure and retreat back into the safety of their old self. But if you endure the fire, something extraordinary happens. You shed the man who was driven by fear, approval, and weakness. In his place rises a man of conviction, strength, and clarity. Transformation isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the man you were always meant to be before the world told you otherwise. This test demands sacrifice. You will outgrow people who once mattered. You will abandon patterns that once gave you comfort. You will walk away from paths that no longer align with your purpose. And it will hurt. It will feel like loss. But in reality, it's rebirth. Passing the test of transformation means you no longer move like the man you were. You speak differently. You think differently. You carry yourself differently. And people notice, not because you've performed a trick, but because you've evolved. The man who emerges from this test is unstoppable, not because he's invincible, but because he's unrecognizable from who he used to be. He no longer fears change. He embodies it. He no longer begs for love. He becomes love. He no longer seeks validation. He validates himself. Transformation is not the end of the journey. It's the beginning of your real one. Because once you've been reborn through solitude, once you've burned away the man you were, there's no going back. Only forward, only upward, only stronger. So there it is, the 7 tests. Not challenges designed to break you, but trials meant to reveal you. Solitude doesn't come to destroy men. It comes to strip away the noise, the weakness, the illusions, until only the real man remains. Most will never pass these tests. They'll run back to the crowd, to the noise, to the comfort of being distracted. They'll trade their potential for approval, their future for comfort, their soul for attention. But a few, just a few, will endure, and those few will rise. Understand this. You don't become unstoppable by chance. You don't build unshakable strength by accident. You become unstoppable by walking through the fire of these tests and refusing to turn back. Respect begins when you walk away. Power begins when you stop begging. Freedom begins when you learn to stand alone. And here's the truth. Once you pass these tests, once you embrace silence, solitude, and transformation, the world cannot control you anymore. You no longer chase it. It starts chasing you. Not because you begged, not because you tried to impress, but because you finally became the kind of man who commands attention simply by existing. The question is, when solitude comes knocking, when silence surrounds you, when the tests begin, will you run back to comfort or will you rise through the fire? The choice is yours. If this message struck something deep inside you, mark this moment. Comment, "I will endure," below, not for me, but as a promise to yourself. Hit like if this woke something in you, and subscribe. Not for more noise, but to remind yourself you're not alone in this battle. The world doesn't need more men begging for approval. It needs men who've passed the tests, men who lead, men who build, men who walk through silence and come out unbreakable. Be one of them.